Some fundamental changes are happening in India's two-wheeler market, the world's largest market for two-wheelers. We sell about 10 million vehicles a year of internal combustion engines. Barring China, this is the world's biggest market for two-wheelers. However, in the past 5 years, 5 to 6 years, scooters are gaining at the expense of motorcycles, and they are creeping up in terms of market share at the rate of almost 2 to 3% every year. We have with us to discuss this Sumant Banerji, our auto expert. Sumant, let's start with what is fundamentally going right for scooters vis-a-vis bikes in the Indian market.
Rajiv, if you look at what has been happening in the last 10 years, it is almost like history repeating itself. Back in the days of in the 90s, early 90s and late 90s, it was bikes which were gaining traction over geared scooters that used to be in play in India. Now, over the last 10 years, like I mentioned, it is scooters which are gaining traction. The reasons are multifarious, but let's look at the numbers first.
Yeah.
Since 2006 and 7 onwards, scooters have grown at a CAGR of 20% every year. Vis-a-vis bikes, which have also grown, but they have grown at a much lighter pace, slower pace of around 8%.
Yeah.
The reason is largely because there are a lot of ungeared automatic scooters that have come into the market. Initially, a lot of women buyers would veer towards scooters because they were easier to drive, they had no gears, the ground clearance was very perfect for them, it had much more luggage space to keep their things and belongings. And bikes were preferred by youth, male buyers. So that was the start of the scooter revolution, so to say. Now, over the last 3 to 4 years, in fact, what we have seen is that even male buyers are veering towards scooters, especially those with smaller families, because scooters again makes perfect sense for them vis-a-vis bikes. The scooter, in terms of their design, in terms of their performance, that has also changed. You have bigger scooters now, 125cc and above.
Engines are more efficient.
Engines are more efficient, scooters are more fuel efficient. The road conditions have improved across the country and it continues to improve.
Yeah.
So scooters are back in vogue right now.
And within this, of course, there has been, the scooter growth has been driven by Honda Activa in all these years. It was launched in 2001. It took almost 7 years for it to reach the 20 lakh mark, and now it sells more than about 3 million vehicles, 3 million Activas a year.
No, so Active actually sells a little over 2.5 million every year, but like you mentioned that it took 7 years for Activa to get to that 20 lakh mark. And if I just put it in perspective, in this year, in 7 months alone, Activa has hit that mark. So what it used to take them 7 years, now it just takes about 7 months. So that is the kind of change we have seen. So Activa has become for scooters what Splendor used to be for motorcycles.
Yeah.
Splendor was the
and that fight is practically over.
That
Activa
fight is
won this battle by
absolutely.
now.
That fight is practically over. Splendor is losing out. Splendor peak sales were something in 2011 and 12 when it did 2.5 million plus. Since then it has been slipping. It is now down to 1.4 million odd. It will probably slip even more going forward. And Activa just continues to gather steam. Everybody, all the analysts, even the die-hard optimists, they thought that Activa will probably peter out at around 2 million units a year, but it just continues to keep growing.
And if we look at the top 5, Sumant, Hero used to have a lot more bikes there in the top 5. Hero's passion has slipped out of the 1 million category, 1 million bike sales. It only Splendor remains a 1 million plus bike from the Hero stable. What is it? Why is it that Hero is not able to make a mark in the scooter market, and that would have sort of sustained its market share in the industry?
Actually, it's not for lack of trying. Hero has tried a lot of scooters in the past. The Pleasure came about. Over the last few months, they have also launched new age scooters targeted to the male audience, to the female audience. So they have tried a whole lot of jing bang with the scooters. For some reason, the Activa shadow is so big that the first consideration set for any consumer is to just look at Activa first. and there is very little to differentiate for him between an Activa and a Hero, because everybody remembers that Hero initially used to be Hero Honda, powered by Honda technology. So when you have to differentiate that what is different between a Hero Motocop scooter and a Honda motorcycle scooter, he's not able to differentiate that. Is there any difference? And because Activa has a head start, he tends to go towards Activa and ignore the Hero bikes.
So the only differentiator that has come in the past few years has been TVS with its Jupiter, which has made it into the top 5 of the two-wheeler sales in the country. So what is it that TVS did that Hero couldn't?
There is one particular aspect about all TVS products, and that includes their bikes as well as scooters. It is a company based out of Chennai. They are very, very strong in the southern belts of the country. So it starts from there, and the general trajectory of any bike or any vehicle in India is that once you start to see it on the roads, a lot more people are inclined to try it out, and that is exactly what has happened with the Jupiter. It started out very strongly in the southern markets. It started getting more visible. Their marketing was also very, very well spread out. They targeted specific festivals where they went ahead and went into the rural parts of India and showcased their scooter, and they have gained traction.
And any specific features do you think worked for them, including that helmet and USB or those things? I think they have been innovating slightly better than others.
Absolutely, they have put their R&D to good use, especially when it comes to the ergonomics of the scooter. So they have a charging over there. They have to refill the scooter, you don't need to get out of the scooter. You can simply pop it up. They also have a luggage compartment which fits in a normal sized helmet pretty well, which is very, very important because you don't want to be lugging a helmet around wherever you are going. So they have paid attention to these needs of the consumers which others haven't, and which is exactly why Jupiter is doing so well.
Sumant, any other reason why nobody other than Hero and Honda has been able to get into this top 5 category? It's almost like the car market where Hyundai and Maruti practically rule the segment right at the top.
What is true for car is probably even more true for scooters, because you need to have a very wide distribution network. People need to be assured about after sales and service, because this is a budget oriented consumer. He does not want to go a long distance to get his scooter serviced. And on these counts, these big companies like Honda motorcycles, like TVS, like Hero Motocop as well, they score over others. If I can go back a little bit, then actually before even TVS, Yamaha tried quite hard in the scooter segment. They in fact even launched some women-centric scooters and some male-centric scooters. The Ray series came in, but they couldn't quite get the traction required to actually become a mass market scooter maker. That is largely because they do not have the distribution spread that is required to actually get the volumes going.
So the depth that you have in the market plays out, and then you continue to build on that.
Absolutely. Because also if you see, Rajeev, that initially scooters used to be this urban product that only people in metros and tier 1 cities would use scooters. But increasingly what we have seen is that scooters are also gaining a lot of traction in rural areas, in small towns and villages. That is largely because the affluence and the capability to buy scooters has gone up, and also the road conditions there also is improving.
Finally, Sumant, the question that I've always had in my mind is why does Bajaj continue to be out of a market which is 34% now and probably growing and may become half the market in a couple of years? But it just defies logic that you, as a two-wheeler maker, you do not make scooters. You were the biggest scooter maker not so far back.
Yes, you are reminded of the Hamara Bajaj days.
Exactly.
when a Bajaj Chetak or a Bajaj Priya used to be absolutely omnipresent all across the country. This is a question which is asked the maximum times to Rajeev Bajaj, that why did you need to exit scooters and just concentrate on motorcycles? You cannot really fault with him, because Bajaj was most vulnerable when this almost sudden shift towards motorcycles happened back in the late 90s. So he burnt his fingers there. He invested his entire R&D into motorcycles. He got a few success stories in the Pulsar and the Platina and the Discover series, and then he simply decided that I am done with scooters. They were anyway proficient in geared scooters, and
Yeah.
they did not invest that much in automatic scooters.
Yeah.
He obviously missed the mark somewhere, but he remains very convinced that he's looking for profitability, he's looking for margins, he's not entirely looking at volumes that much. So he's happy to play second fiddle and say that, okay, scooters is not my forte. I want to keep, developing my expertise in motorcycles and stick to that game plan. And so far, at least in terms of profits, they are doing well. Obviously, in terms of volumes, they have lost out.
But it's very interesting that it must be playing in the minds of the management over there, that on the ground floor of their factory in Pune, they have showcased a whole lot of scooters, some looking very, very elegant and very nice, but they continue to be out of the scooter market as a strategy. So there you are, the scooter market is gaining every year at the expense of the bike market in the Indian two-wheeler industry. Thanks Sumant for this discussion. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Do send us your comments if you'd like any responses. Thank you.